Welcome back, Warner fam. Today I'll recap a horror action film, Eden Lake, so keep your eyes wide open and stay safe. The movie starts. Jenny, a nursery school teacher, and her boyfriend Steve decide to get away for a romantic weekend at a peaceful, remote lake in the green English countryside. On their way, they meet a young boy who seems very shy and refuses to speak to them. Once they arrive at the beach, they try to relax and enjoy their time, but things quickly take a turn. A group of teenage delinquents and their loud, annoying dog show up. Steve stubbornly decides to stay put, ignoring the trouble they're causing. Instead of leaving, he chooses to endure their loud music and the dogs barking, but things are about to get much worse than they ever imagined. They spend the night in a tent, but in the morning they find their food has been ruined by insects. Feeling hungry, they head back to the car to find a place to eat. Unfortunately, they run over an empty bottle left by the teens. Steve thankfully manages to fix the flat tire, and they head off to the nearby town. While in town, Steve spots the unruly teens riding their bikes. Furious, he decides to follow them, but soon loses track of them. Giving up, they go inside a diner to look for some breakfast. While there, Steve asks the waitress if she has seen the kids on bikes. The waitress jokingly asks if the teens have been bothering them. Steve laughs it off, saying they've only been hassling them, and adds that he wanted to tell their parents they had damaged his tire. But then, the waitress reacts oddly and says, "Not my kids, something seems off." When they leave the diner, Steve spots a group of bicycles lying on the front lawn of a house. He decides to stop the car. Jenny begs him to stay in the car, but Steve refuses and gets out. He tries calling at the front door, but there's no answer. Determined, Steve enters the house to see if anyone is home. Just as he's inside, the owner, who turns out to be the father of one of the teenagers, returns home. Steve barely manages to escape through the window without getting caught. He and Jenny rush back to the lake, trying to get away from the danger they've just walked into. Once they're back at the lake, Steve decides to go scuba diving while Jenny rests on the beach. When he returns, they realize something's wrong. The beach bag, which had the car keys, Steve's phone, and wallet, is missing. In a panic, they rush to check on the car, only to find that it's gone too. Now forced to walk back to town, they almost get hit by their own car as the gang drives it recklessly through the woods. The car comes to a stop, and Brett, the leader of the teens, smirks at them, enjoying the trouble he's caused. Things are definitely not looking good for Steve and Jenny. As night falls, Steve and Jenny come across the gang deep in the woods. Against Jenny's wishes, Steve decides to confront them. He demands the return of the car keys and their stolen things, but Brett denies taking anything. However, things take a turn when Steve's phone suddenly rings in Brett's pocket. This causes a fight, and during the struggle, one of the boys pulls out a knife. Steve manages to grab the knife, but in the chaos, he accidentally stabs Brett's dog. Brett, heartbroken by his dog's death, throws the car keys to the ground and tells them to leave. Steve and Jenny manage to find their car and begin driving away, but they get stuck on a steep slope. Brett and the gang aren't done yet. They catch up and start throwing rocks at the car, breaking the windshield and smashing the headlights. Terrified, Steve and Jenny struggle to get the car moving again, but with no headlights, Steve crashes into a tree. With a branch piercing the windshield and trapping Steve, he tells Jenny to run and find help. Jenny escapes and hides, spending the night alone in fear. The next morning, Jenny carefully returns to the car, but to her shock, Steve is gone. Following a trail of blood, she finds the gang in a small clearing. Steve is tied up with barbed wire. Jenny watches in horror as the boys, led by Brett, take turns torturing Steve with their knives, while Paige, the only girl in the group, is forced to record everything on her phone. Realizing they're about to kill Steve, Jenny thinks quickly. She uses the Bluetooth on her GPS to connect to Steve's phone, but Brett notices this and quickly figures out that Jenny must be nearby. He orders the gang to go after her. The danger for Jenny and Steve is about to get much worse. Jenny runs as fast as she can, with the gang chasing her on their bikes. This gives Steve the chance to free himself from the barbed wire, and he starts running too. Jenny manages to lose the gang and finally finds Steve, badly injured and bleeding. She helps him into a nearby shack and tries to treat his wounds. While doing this, she finds a wedding ring in Steve's clothes. He tells her that he had planned to propose to her. Just then, the gang shows up and enters the shack, but they don't find anything. Jenny had hidden both herself and Steve underneath the shack in the water. When the gang leaves, Jenny pulls Steve out of the water. They decide that Jenny should go on alone, leaving Steve hidden under some leaves for safety. As Jenny follows the power lines, she steps on a sharp spike and hides in fear, worried her scream might give away her location. She then spots Adam, the little boy she and Steve had seen earlier. Jenny begs him for help, but to her shock, he leads her straight to the gang, who knock her out cold. Jenny wakes up to a terrifying sight. She and Steve are tied up, with the gang about to set them on fire. Brett pours petrol over them and forces Adam to light the match. He also orders Paige to record the entire thing on her phone. The other gang members look clearly disturbed by what's happening. Just as the ropes binding Jenny begin to burn, she manages to escape. In his rage, Brett covers Adam with petrol and threatens to set him on fire if Jenny doesn't return, but Jenny is already far away, unable to do anything except watch in horror as Adam is burned alive. Jenny finally finds a trail map, which she takes with her to help escape. She narrowly avoids being seen by Brett and Ricky by hiding in a large bin. Afterward, she picks up a shard of glass to defend herself, but before she can move, she comes face to face with another member of the gang, Cooper. Cooper seems like he wants to help her, realizing things have gone too far, but before he can say anything, Jenny panics and stabs him with the glass. Shocked by what she's done, she holds Cooper in her arms as he dies. When Paige finds Cooper's body, she screams, which brings Brett running. Another gang member tries to call someone on his phone, but this makes Brett lose control. He beats the guy savagely, and Paige, terrified of Brett's violent outburst, runs away. Jenny finally makes it to the road and spots a van. She waves it down and quickly gets inside, telling the driver she's been attacked. The driver, concerned, says he's also looking for his brother, who is out in the forest. His brother Ricky. The driver stops the van and gets out, leaving the keys in the ignition. Feeling afraid that she might be caught again, Jenny decides to take a chance. She steals the van and drives off toward town, but in her hurry, she accidentally runs over Paige. Jenny finally makes it to town, but in her panic, she crashes the van into the front yard of a house. She stumbles around to the back of the house and finds a party going on. Desperate for help, she collapses and passes out. When she wakes up, she's inside the house, with a woman comforting her. As she listens to a phone call from the parents about their children, Jenny suddenly realizes she's in Brett's house. She nervously asks to be shown to the bathroom. Meanwhile, Brett's father spots the van in the front yard. Realizing she has no way to escape, Jenny grabs a razor for protection. The chaos outside grows louder, and then the door is kicked open. Brett, his father, and the other party guests, some of whom are the parents of the gang, storm in. Jenny realizes the truth. The gang's parents are just as dangerous as their kids, and they are hiding and protecting their violent behavior. Brett's father angrily orders Brett to his room, and with help from another parent, they push Jenny back into the bathroom. As the film ends, Brett deletes the videos from Paige's phone, putting on Steve's sunglasses while Jenny's screams echo from downstairs as she's beaten and killed. So which awesome movie should we recap next? Drop your suggestions in the comments below and let's make it happen. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button so you never miss out on our fun recaps. We've got plenty more coming your way. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Produced by Warner Talks.